one, the cargo. This run is going to involve a hard trek up some snowy mountains.
Thank God. That's what I was hoping for.
Well, now the adventurer you're delivering to. Gotta respect.
The AMP house. I got extra food, which is right here. This is oxtail, rice, beans, and blood clot mac and cheese. Oh my God.
Alexa, where is Kai Cenat from?
Kai Cenat was born in New York.
Yo.
Alexa,
Yo.
where's Kai Cenat's family from? Alexa, what is Kai Cenat's nationality? Alexa.
Fuck wrong with you? The AMP house.
Fry stands people with jelly feeling like soda man.
We've got to live in a simulation or something. Yesterday at the NATO summit, the
If you look like a weirdo, people are gonna test you. They're gonna be like, yo, what you in here for? So I'm in here with some white dude. I'm like, yo, what you in here for? He said, nothing crazy. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna need to see them papers, bro, because I'm not trying to be in no cell with some weirdo. He's like, yeah, I didn't think you guys were serious about it. So I just threw it in the toilet. I don't need it. Bro, what the f are you really in here for? Go back to our cell. He's like, honestly, I did not know she was underage. Like, and I was like, yo, you f***ing serious right now? He's like, yeah, I just didn't know she was underage. I'm like, all right, here's the deal. Yo, I won't tell nobody. I'm gonna sit on this bunk. You are not coming near me. I need your snacks every Tuesday. And I need that order. I'm gonna tell the whole block. His dumb ass told somebody else. Now everybody knows. People are running up in my cells, banging them, taking his snacks. And I'm like, nah, hell no, I'm taking that. So homeboy was like on the bunk with his head like this. That's what you should have told me straight the fuck up. If you look like a weirdo, people are gonna test you. They're gonna be like, yo, what you in here for? So I'm in here with some white dude. I'm like,
Hold up. PS4? Man, get up on that PS5. Who's that on your shirt? Rick Ross? Man, Officer Ricky.
Bloodhound Q50 speaks on Chicago streamers trying so hard to let everyone know they're from Chicago. And I think I know exactly which clown he's talking about.
The one thing about from Chicago, there's a lot of people, a lot of TikTokers and streamers from Chicago that be wanting to make it known they're from Chicago. So they always, so they always overforcing the lingo, always saying unfolding them, always saying.
I know one guy who does that, pisses me off.
Like, bro, it's like, cool, you from Chicago. Okay, I'm from Detroit. Like, okay, I don't give two fucks. No one gives two fucks where you from, bro. Quit dick sucking about it. Now let's watch this, guys. Alright, guys, let's watch this. Let's watch this. I can't change the stream thing. I don't think I can. Alright. Look. Oh, yeah, alright. Let me edit this. Reacting to. Reacted to. No, wait, no. Yeah, reacting to videos type shit. Category. What's it about? Let's just do entertainment. Save. Alright, guys, Logan Paul just got F-worded. Now see, he's been fucked, okay? And let me tell you how. Basically, it was me and him in the room one time. We was alone. I noticed that we was alone, so I bent him over. I grabbed him on his shoulder and hit that from the back. It was long and vicious strokes.
Being investigated by the FBI. Turns out he's been trying to pretend that he doesn't know what's going on, and his lawyer is coming up with possibly the worst arguments humanly possible and kind of tanking his case for him. Apparently, CoffeeZilla is also friendly with the government, and the SEC is thanking him for reporting these people. Now, quick recap for people who don't follow the story. A while back, CoffeeZilla exposed Logan Paul for his crypto scams with a very popular YouTube series. And Logan Paul did the logical thing and, you know, instead of just paying back the victims from CryptoZoo, the people that he actually scammed, he decided to sue CoffeeZilla for defamation, insisting that he is not a scammer. Okay, so since then, Logan Paul's scummy text messages also got leaked, basically showing that he was not suing CoffeeZilla because he thought he was defamed, but actually because he's a self-proclaimed petty billionaire who just wanted to ruin his life.
Paul also admitted that he's suing him just to make his life difficult. And he says Zilla will pay one way or another. I'll make sure of it. Bro, you're a billionaire. Paul responds with a petty billionaire.
I wonder how the jury is going to react to that one.
Paul says, I want people who wronged me to suffer while I continue getting wins on their grave.
Ooh, no way Logan is using the word grave after the Japan Forest incident. And that brings us to today. Logan Paul filed a motion of confidentiality trying to hide some sort of information that was very humiliating and embarrassing for him. But unfortunately for him, that information has actually come to light now. Shout out to YouTuber Legal Bites for this video, and let's just go over the whole story. Alrighty, subscribe or your kids have to eat lunchly for the rest of their lives.
No.
And let's begin with this video of Logan panicking about worse evidence getting out.
This information, Paul says, should remain confidential because it's too harmful and embarrassing to Paul. So in other
Oh,
words,
wow, that's
forget
true.
about those scummy texts that we just saw. If you thought those made him look bad, it sounds like Logan Paul is way more worried about this information. He might end up being the one responsible for making this evidence public in the first place.
Yeah, Logan Paul just doesn't understand the Streisand effect. You cannot silence people like this, you can't silence a story like this, and you can't try to hide this information because it's always gonna come back to bite you. Especially when you are the one who tried to sue someone here. Obviously, all of your scummy bullshit is gonna come out in discovery because that's just part of the legal process. And he kind of screwed himself the second he tried to file this motion for confidentiality.
And so we really wouldn't have known that there was anything in here that Paul was really afraid of getting out. That is, until Logan Paul filed his motion to preserve confidentiality designations.
So it turns out the thing that's worse than the scummy text messages is that he's being investigated by the FBI and the SEC. And you know you're
Dang,
kind
that's
of cooked
crazy.
when the three-letter organizations are starting to investigate you.
Oh no, the scary three-letter organizations are coming after me. Wait a minute, why are there badges on their chests? Or is this like full suits? Why they got big booties?
Now we know that the evidence he desperately
Why
tried
are
to
they
keep
so
secret
tall?
was in fact a number of federal investigations by the SEC and FBI into the whole CryptoZoo team, including Logan Paul.
You told me I couldn't say anything because Eddie was being investigated by the FBI and that was confidential information. It's all over the internet. I've been let on for a year, bro. I've also asked you to audit the contract for the game and see where the money went so many times, and that never happened either. Do you see how this looks?
Logan Paul obviously leaked this to make himself look better.
I see how it looks.
What did you do?
Tried to help to get the project done. That's all I did.
I think there's a piece of information being left out.
Yeah, I wonder who would leave out information here. This is hilarious. Logan having to pretend like he doesn't know what's going
Probably just meant to be released. But he's scolding them. Obviously he ain't no good guy, bruh. He like just look at his record. He is no good guy. He's the scum of the earth made billionaire. Like, oh my god, someone like Mike Tyson, bro, bite this guy's ear off.
means I'm innocent, right? I'm being so mean to them. I'm confronting them on the phone. And I love how he tries to say that his like team is being investigated. Bro, you are also being investigated.
Yeah, you're a part of the team gang.
You are this project. Your
That's
name
it.
was on it. You were promoting it. You definitely knew what was going on. And it's just so pathetic that it's even come to this. Like, you couldn't just take a...
And the fact that people still think like, bro, nothing in this day and age is gonna be as big as how Bitcoin was. Nothing is. So just invest in stuff that's been around for a while, for decades. Like, bro, instead of this, like everything with Logan Paul involving crypto or any YouTuber involving crypto is a scam.
accountability
Everything.
and pay back the CryptoZoo victims. You were bragging about making millions of dollars a day, and that's literally just how much you had to pay the CryptoZoo victim.
Oh, look, it's the two ugly ass niggas. It's these two fuck ass niggas. Ooh, I hate them, both of them. I just want to smack them.
I mean, let's not forget, this guy literally apologized and then did a complete 180. He decided that his ego was way too important, and he
Bro, like, he has the biggest ego and the tiniest wiener on YouTube.
He just didn't bother following through with any of his promises. Then we learned that Coffee's actually the one who whistleblew to the FBI and the SEC.
Okay. Well, there's no information that I'm not telling you.
But now we've learned that Logan Paul himself was and is currently being investigated for allegedly defrauding CryptoZoo
Dink doink? What does that mean?
investors. And what's more, we now learned the identity of the whistleblower. Who else but CoffeeZilla himself?
Bro, Coffee is actually such a legend for this. And this is kind of the reason you know
Snitch.
that Coffee was genuine in his intentions when he was exposing Logan Paul, because he didn't just make a YouTube video about it trying to get some quick views. He actually reported him to the FBI and the SEC, and he was actually trying to get legitimate justice and not just some weird attempt at defaming him. So now we get a bit of the timeline here. Basically, Coffee wants to combine the case of Logan suing him and CryptoZoo investors suing Logan, because both of those cases hinge on the same facts, right? Whether or not Logan is actually a scammer. And essentially, Logan is just crying to the court like, oh, this FBI investigation is not that important, and Coffee is just trying to embarrass me in the public.
First, there's CoffeeZilla's motion to transfer, which is where he's asking the court to transfer this case from San Antonio to Austin so it can be litigated closer to the CryptoZoo class action case. Paul filed a motion to preserve confidentiality. That's the motion that told all of us that Logan Paul was panicking over this evidence getting out. In it, Paul pointed all kinds of fingers at CoffeeZilla, claiming that he included those sealed exhibits in his motion to transfer for no legitimate reason, and that he did it just to harm and embarrass Paul to the court.
Really? You think Coffee would risk his entire life and reputation just to embarrass Logan Paul? I mean, if he just wanted to humiliate and embarrass him, he would just talk about this publicly. The fact that we had to literally find this information out through some weird legal documents and a lawyer YouTuber covering the story means that he wasn't trying to humiliate Logan at all. And frankly, I don't think Coffee needs to embarrass Logan at all. This guy's reputation is already in the gutter. There's not much more he could possibly do. He'd probably have to go to Japan and film another dead body. That would probably make people hate him more. So pretty dumb argument by Logan in my opinion.
This, Paul says, was by all appearances a deliberate attempt to advance a false narrative to the federal government. Okay, right off the bat, deliberate false accusations to the government come with very serious penalties, so that is a very heavy accusation made by Paul here.
Yeah, apparently everybody is just after Logan Paul. Nobody wants to do legitimate critique. The world revolves around Logan Paul. Everybody's just trying to embarrass him. Dude, get over yourself. You're not that important. And the thing is, he's not even important to Coffee, because apparently Coffee does this stuff all the time. He whistleblows a lot of people to these organizations, and some of them actually end up getting arrested as well. So he's basically the local janitor, just taking the trash out and giving pieces of shit like Logan what they deserve. And don't get me wrong, it takes a long while, but eventually karma does find its way. Now this next part, Logan's lawyers deliver possibly the worst argument ever.
The reason that Findeisen misled the government so brazenly, of course, was that his goal was to prompt the government to investigate and build cases against plaintiffs specifically, whom he had never even spoken to about the project, in order to further harm plaintiff and, he hoped, ultimately claim credit and raise his own profile in the event the investigations resulted in criminal charges or civil penalties against him. And basically what he's getting at is Paul claims that CoffeeZilla didn't give the government any information about any other bad actors on the CryptoZoo team, like Eddie Ibanez and Jake Greenbaum. And he says that because of that, CoffeeZilla was sending the government down this rabbit hole to focus specifically on Logan Paul and to ignore everyone else on the CryptoZoo team.
So real quick, just going over this part again, in order to further harm plaintiff, and he hoped that ultimately he'll claim credit and raise his own profile in the event the investigations resulted in criminal charges or civil penalties against him. So this clown is actually saying that CoffeeZilla reported Logan to the government because he wanted to raise his own profile if Logan was found guilty and got criminal charges or civil penalties. So Logan's lawyers are basically admitting, like, okay, maybe Logan might be guilty, but Coffee only did this to raise his own reputation and not actually catch Logan in a crime. So they're saying Coffee is not exactly wrong, but his intentions were wrong, apparently. Bro, that is the worst argument I've ever seen. Who is this guy's lawyer? My God. Put that meme, "This is my lawyer, I'm cooked, boys." This is embarrassing. You're literally throwing your own client under the bus. Now, the person who made this video, Legal Bites, is a lawyer too, right? And she talks about how she didn't even make this video for a long time because she wanted to make sure she got Logan's argument properly, because Logan's side was so stupid that it literally did not make any sense and she was so confused.
I may or may not have been sitting on this video a little bit longer than I should have rather than moving forward to publish it, in part because I've been trying to wrap my mind around this argument. Throughout my career as a litigator, I have often found myself in moments of pause when reading someone else's legal arguments that don't quite click for me. And the dilemma always is, am I just not understanding the other side's argument? Am I maybe clouded by something like bias maybe that's keeping me from seeing the other side clearly? Or does this argument just really suck that bad? But anyway, all of that is to say, I think I've landed in the place that this argument by Logan Paul, where he says that CoffeeZilla misled the government and essentially did it for clicks and to claim credit in the event the investigations resulted in criminal charges, is just a really bad argument. Like, I'm sorry, but to me, it just does not make sense. Setting aside the fact that CoffeeZilla showed in response that he did, in fact, provide a bunch of information to the FBI about the entire CryptoZoo team, and that this included information about Jake Greenbaum and Eddie Ibanez, even if he didn't send that information to those guys, why would the government not look into the activities of the entire team if they suspected that even just one member of the team had maybe defrauded investors?
Logan hired his lawyers off Temu, bro. Dude, can you imagine that your lawyer's argument sounds so incredibly stupid that other lawyers look at it and don't even believe it's real because it just sounds that dumb? Also, the other argument is even more funny. Basically, Logan was saying that Coffee only reported him to the FBI and not his team so that they would only charge Logan with a crime. First off, that is completely brain dead. We literally just saw proof that Coffee reported the other people as well. And hypothetically, even if he only reported Logan, of course they would be investigating the whole project and every member of the team that was involved, right? Just because you only have information on one person doesn't mean you're trying to exonerate the rest of his team. But I just love how their defense is, no, not I didn't commit the crime, it's Coffee is reporting me for the wrong reasons and he just wants to get social media likes and not actually put me in prison. How pathetic can you actually be, bro? Now after this, she talks about how Logan is screwed either way because his argument just doesn't make sense. Because the only way Coffee would be able to raise his reputation by reporting Logan to the FBI was if Logan actually was a criminal and there was merit to his case. So basically, if Coffee reported Logan to the FBI and nothing actually came out of it, and Logan is completely innocent, then Coffee's reputation would actually go down for having a false flag, for basically getting the story wrong, right? His reputation would lower. So the only way to actually raise his reputation is being right about Logan.
If CoffeeZilla misled the government when he presented a whistleblower claim about CryptoZoo, how would that result in criminal charges? In order to get to the stage of criminal charges or civil penalties that he supposedly wants to be thanked for, according to this argument, there has to be enough legitimacy in CoffeeZilla's whistleblower complaint to get to that result. And that would mean that whatever was in CoffeeZilla's whistleblower complaint was not misleading the government. And importantly, to the defamation claims ultimately in question here in this case, that would also mean that CoffeeZilla reasonably believed that Logan Paul and the others defrauded the public or defrauded their investors with CryptoZoo. To put it another way, for CoffeeZilla to receive accolades from the public over Logan Paul getting charged, there has to be fire to all that smoke. So how does that make sense for CoffeeZilla to think, I'm going to mislead the SEC and the FBI into investigating Logan Paul specifically, and then when they do find enough to charge him with federal crimes, I'll accept the congratulations for it.
Yeah, you gotta do some crazy mental gymnastics to come to this conclusion. Apparently, Coffee is just 5,000 IQ here, and he's apparently falsely reporting Logan to the FBI and the SEC, you know, which could definitely be a crime of some sort. He's apparently specifically doing this so that they can find no wrongdoing, and that is somehow going to make CoffeeZilla more popular for getting the story wrong in public. Literally makes negative sense. Logan trying to find any way to squirm out of this is just hilarious. Bro, just put the fries in the bag. You're so completely cooked. Now she talks about how Coffee actually reports a lot of these people to these organizations like the FBI and the SEC, and Logan isn't special. He isn't the only one that got reported.
It's public record that CoffeeZilla has been a whistleblower before and continues to be a whistleblower in other cases after CryptoZoo. Specifically, it's common knowledge that he had a strong hand in blowing open the lid about the FTX fraud, and that's a big reason why Sam Bankman-Fried was convicted of a number of
views. Keep in mind, this is the same guy who promoted Lunchly at the birth of his child. You can't even make this shit up. Bro is just a sociopath. Now, this next part is absolutely brutal. Coffee actually attached evidence of the SEC thanking him for his comprehensive reports on these people that actually led to multiple arrests, right? So he's friendly with the SEC and probably the FBI too, bro. Coffee is doing God's work here.
And as CoffeeZilla said in a footnote in his response that made me chuckle, to be honest, Logan Paul isn't special to CoffeeZilla. In fact, he says CoffeeZilla has routinely provided whistleblower reports to the FBI and SEC in the hopes of stopping cryptocurrency scams. While not publicized, CoffeeZilla's reports have led to multiple arrests and guilty pleas. And then he attaches some exhibits showing some of his prior correspondence with someone at the SEC who told him that his reports and some other unrelated matter that he had sent them were found to be very helpful and well done, and that his report to them on the CryptoZoo matter appears to be from the same mold.
So here we got the message from the government official. Thank you for the information collected and synthesized in your report. Procedurally, all tips submitted are reviewed by the office based on a number of factors. If the subjects or conduct relate to an ongoing investigation, the information will be forwarded to the relevant case team. I can't guarantee that will be us in this instance. Personally, I found your reports in the other matter very helpful and well done, and this appears to be from the same mold. So I just wanted to say we appreciate it. Happy to chat anytime. Logan is gonna lose his mind after seeing this. He's like, oh my god, the guy's about to prosecute me or friendly with coffee, bro. And just so you know, this is relevant to CryptoZoo. We have this other segment here. Just wanted to let you know, guys, I submitted a detailed report on Logan's involvement with CryptoZoo. We got the TLDR, the cryptocurrency, NFTs, 23 million YouTube subscribers. We got all of it. The game which sold millions does not work.
Can you imagine anything worse to Logan Paul, who does appear low-key obsessed with CoffeeZilla, that CoffeeZilla doesn't even consider him to be unique in all of this? Like, in the midst of all of this high-stakes litigation, which has the capacity to ruin CoffeeZilla financially, like, this is legitimately a serious matter and, you know, not fun for CoffeeZilla, obviously. But in the midst of all of that, CoffeeZilla is able to still underhandedly just, like, insult Paul in this way. And the fact that this kind of insult is delivered through a footnote just emphasizes the point that it's not even worth saying in the body of the pleading. Logan Paul just isn't special enough to dedicate that kind of real estate.
That is diabolical. Using a footnote to subtly shit on Logan Paul in a legal setting. Logan just popped a blood vessel reading that. Bro needs to film himself in Japan after this absolute destruction. Now, lucky for Logan, one of the organizations did actually close their investigation. It seems the SEC had this investigation deposed, and this was probably due to them simply handing off the investigation to the FBI. And there was a bunch of events going on, like a recent change in the government as well, where different organizations were given different priorities. So don't get it twisted, the FBI investigation is still ongoing, but Logan is taking any opportunity to take a dub here.
The SEC closed out its investigation, which he argues means they found no wrongdoing, and he says that all other federal investigation is basically dormant and has gone nowhere, which he says means basically the same thing, no wrongdoing. But CoffeeZilla happily goes into detail about what happened with these investigations and obviously has a different take on it. CoffeeZilla submits supplemental information to the SEC and FBI to include a more thorough analysis. And on the same day, Logan Paul receives a subpoena to testify regarding CryptoZoo before a grand jury. And not only that, but the Central District of California issued an amended search warrant for all of Paul's electronic devices for evidence of securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy related to CryptoZoo. And it goes on. Then on March 7th, the SEC subpoenaed Paul for information related to CryptoZoo and other alleged crypto scams Paul has been involved with, including Dink Doink. Then on June 10th, 2024, Paul was deposed in the SEC investigation. Specifically, the SEC decides to scale back its crypto enforcement action and issues closing letters to Logan Paul and many others. The Justice Department is no longer pursuing some crypto cases that they say are better left to other agencies. And apparently, the SEC has actually dropped more than a dozen cases against crypto firms since the change in policy. However, CoffeeZilla says the FBI investigation remains, and he says they continue to express interest in Paul as recently as early 2025. And he says, as far as he knows, this investigation is ongoing.
Yeah, so basically Logan is still being investigated by the FBI. He caught a lucky break with the SEC and immediately said, oh, this means I'm innocent, guys. Even though his own lawyers are basically just admitting he's guilty. I honestly do wish these cases would be handled quicker and wouldn't take literal years to resolve. But unfortunately, that's kind of just how the legal system works. You have to be very thorough to make sure only the guilty people get charged, right? And oftentimes they take a very long time to investigate and then just sort of hit you with all of the charges at once. So Logan is definitely not in the clear in any capacity. In fact, Logan is actually stuck between a rock and a hard place. This next part, she talks about how Logan can't even testify in his own defamation case here because his own words would probably implicate him in the FBI investigation. So bro is just cooked either way.
Because he is the plaintiff, he's the one that brought this case, Logan Paul kind of has to testify in the defamation trial against CoffeeZilla if he's going to be successful. And if the plaintiff doesn't testify at trial, that creates a massive uphill battle for him. And when you look at the scope of what Logan Paul would have to testify about, absolutely the question of whether he actually defrauded CryptoZoo investors is going to come up. But if he does decide to testify in the defamation case, that is a massive risk because he's opening himself up to questioning that directly implicates potential criminal liability against him. Massive risk. Any lawyer looking at the situation would be waving all the red flags and being like, don't do it. Even if he thinks that he did nothing wrong, there's always a chance that he says something that says otherwise to the feds. And on the other hand, if he does invoke his Fifth Amendment rights and he refuses to testify, he protects himself somewhat on the potential federal criminal case front. But like I said before, he makes it that much harder to actually win this civil case.
So basically, Logan is either going to lose the case against CoffeeZilla, or he's going to try to defend himself by testifying and then implicate himself to the feds. Just lovely, absolutely lovely. Bro's being cooked on both sides like a well-done hamburger. Bro can't even defend himself in court without the FBI sniffing up his cheeks. But it doesn't end there, he's even more screwed because if Logan chooses to not testify to avoid saying something that would implicate him to the feds, he's screwed even more because that means he's afraid of getting caught, which is obviously a point in favor of Coffee because that means even Coffee would have reasonably thought that Logan did something wrong.
He also wins if he can show to the jury that at the time that he made these allegedly defamatory statements, CoffeeZilla reasonably believed that Logan Paul had actually defrauded the CryptoZoo investors. And if you think about it, if Logan Paul invokes the Fifth Amendment, he is saying that he has a reasonable concern that his statements could incriminate him when talking about the CryptoZoo project. And that actually kind of means even Logan Paul is feeling like there's a shadow of possibility that he could get convicted of fraud. Which means the jury might look at that and say, so if Logan Paul sees a possibility that he could get convicted of fraud, it's reasonable for CoffeeZilla to have thought the same thing. And that would get in the way of Logan Paul being able to prove to the jury that CoffeeZilla made these alleged statements with actual malice. And actual malice is an essential element that Logan Paul has to prove in order to win this case. And so that would mean Logan Paul loses the defamation case.
And it was this next part she talks about how Logan might have only sued Coffee because Coffee reported him to the FBI and he was really mad about that. Because if you remember, he actually took an entire year to sue him.
And remember, Paul waited well over a year after CoffeeZilla came out with his 3-part series before suing him for defamation. He waited long enough that the statute of limitations already passed to be able to sue over those original videos. So he had to find other follow-up statements CoffeeZilla made to sue him over those statements instead. It can definitely make that look like Logan Paul wasn't planning to sue CoffeeZilla until he found out that he was a whistleblower and decided to retaliate against him for blowing that whistle.
Right, that makes a lot more sense because apparently we thought that Logan was so mad at Coffee because he exposed him and destroyed his reputation online. But this adds a new element that Logan was really pissy because he literally outed him to the feds. Definitely seems like something a petty billionaire would do, sue the guy who snitched on him. So here's what people are saying. It's a very hard sell to claim that suing the whistleblower in the criminal investigation of you isn't retaliation. Okay, if anything, this makes CoffeeZilla look way more badass than he shows himself. Like, he's doing some epic shit behind the scenes. This is brave as hell. The whole phone call about Logan Paul trying to find out what the guy did with the money is all fake. Of course, if you're trying to hide the fact that you maybe have defrauded people in some way, you're not gonna just call your business partner and be like, hey, just act like I'm confronting you and you're really sorry about this whole thing. I didn't realize CoffeeZilla himself was the whistleblower. I'm genuinely scared for him, honestly. Yeah, you gotta keep an eye out for the Logan Paul hitman. Now click this video so the FBI finally taps Logan in the ass. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Jake Doolittle has become the textbook example of self-sabotage. He had everything a YouTuber could ever ask for, from a steadily growing channel to a loyal audience that loves their content. But it didn't take long for him to throw it all away. The moment Jake dropped his Ethan Klein expose video was the exact moment he made the biggest mistake of his career, with his video sparking questions such as, where do you draw the line between critic and hit piece? Is it when you blatantly accuse someone of lying to their audience?
As a viewer of the podcast, if I were to stand back and watch Ethan lie, saying certain things about his health that are just straight up misinformation, then I would be doing a disservice to an entire community.
Or maybe it's when you frame their medical concerns as tactics to profit from their viewers.
Klein claimed to have lupus, made money off of it, and then admitted that he made everything up and self-diagnosed himself.
Either way, making harsh claims like these will always have repercussions, and Jake found this out the hard way. The craziest thing about Jake's situation is that he had what most failing YouTubers don't: a second chance. But as you'll learn in this video, he threw it all away in spectacular fashion. Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today we'll be dissecting the story of Jake Doolittle, a commentary creator whose downfall serves as a cautionary tale for all YouTubers on what not to do. Jake began his YouTube career in December 2019, but he was already making a name for himself by leveraging his past work with major creators and influencers, with uploads like working with Charli D'Amelio and shooting for Justin Bieber. Jake knew the best way to get his name out there was to attach it to people with platforms much larger than his. This also became the foundation for one of the most popular series on his channel, in which he exposed other, often bigger creators for things like deceiving their audiences and plagiarism. And while some label Jake as a morally grandstanding hypocrite, this approach to creating content catapulted him from 500 to 250,000 subscribers in a little over 2 years. Most fans also really loved the content, with many commenters thanking him for shining light on these issues. Now, it's important to note that the thing that made these videos good was Jake's neutrality. Most of his criticism of these creators revolved around easily provable facts, and wasn't influenced by his own feelings on the matter.
Because there are articles saying members of the autistic community call out Period A rapper Brit Barbie for allegedly faking speech impediment. And so all these people have duetted it. It's this whole thing. So this guy is interviewing her, and then in the middle of the conversation, she switches to this.
Yeah, it's okay because...
But started out by saying this.
That all changed in December of 2023. When Jake released his hit piece on Ethan Klein, one of the hosts of the H3 podcast. It was clear that this particular video was fueled more by a personal grudge than a factual analysis. Little did Jake know at the time, this was about to become the biggest mistake of his entire career. However, to fully understand Jake's reasoning behind uploading such a video, we first have to rewind to his first interaction with Ethan, back in 2021. You see, Jake was working as a photographer for influencers at the time, and in August of 2021, Jake released a series of now deleted tweets accusing Charli D'Amelio of making millions of photos that he wasn't properly compensated for, with tweets reading, "I can't think about anything but the millions you made off my photos. Lol, I feel like people are misconstruing what I'm saying. Nobody asked to use my photos. I was never told the photos would be in the book. A credit in the book means nothing when they don't have your permission, as well as me when I never got paid for photos." The situation was only intensified by the numerous articles and Twitter pages covering the story, which eventually landed Jake an appearance on the H3 podcast. During their interaction, Ethan offered Jake a listening ear and $500 for the photos he wasn't paid for.
Here's what I want to do for you though, Jake. I think the D'Amelio family could pay you like $500, right? And then you'd be happy. I mean, I'm now it's a whole different thing. Now it's a whole legal shit. I don't know. But stay on the line. I'm gonna send you $500 because the D'Amelio family didn't. Stop it. The D'Amelio family didn't pay you $500. I'm gonna pay because they're cheap fucking freaks.
And while Jake appreciated the generous offer, he also wanted something else from Ethan.
If you look over my resume, can you keep your $500?
Stay on the line. Are you in LA?
He did say he was subscribed.
I'm not in LA. I'm remote, but love
You're
it killing
in
it out
Maine,
of
bro.
Sweden. I bet you I could kill it.
Okay, so stay on the line. I'm gonna give you the 500. I'm gonna give you the 500 to make you whole. And remember, D'Amelio family, Ethan pays on time.
That's right.
And also send your resume. Stay on the hold. We'll get both, okay?
Jake was clearly a longtime fan of the show and wanted to use this chance to secure a spot working for Ethan. Unfortunately, all Jake received was the money he was promised and a new blueprint for content creation on his own corner of YouTube. And that's where the things ended between the two, or at least that's what it looked like on the surface. On the 13th of December 2023, Jake made a community post stating, "A YouTuber with millions of followers pretended to have chronic illness, profited off of it, then said they made it all up. New video coming soon." This left viewers speculating on whether or not his next upload would have Ethan as the primary focus. The wider H3 community and subreddits were obviously against this and tried to get Jake to reconsider his decision. But he was determined to go through with it, and by the 29th of December 2023, he published a video titled "Ethan Klein, Harmful or Hypochondriac?"
I saw a few very concerning things when it comes to Ethan Klein's lupus journey. And as someone who's been sick his entire life, I felt like I needed to make this video. If I were to stand back and watch Ethan lie, saying certain things about his health that are just straight up misinformation, then I would be doing a disservice to an entire community. Ethan Klein claimed to have lupus, made money off of it, and then admitted that he made everything up and self-diagnosed himself.
Right off the bat, Jake was framing himself as an authority on the topic of chronic illness and condemned the way Ethan went about his health inquiries. Jake went on to detail the various instances of Ethan referring to or sharing aspects of his medical reports and testing. At the same time, Jake berated Ethan for not pronouncing medical terms correctly and for using ChatGPT to further understand test results.
Saying that an elevated tryptase relates to leukemia is like saying that sneezing relates to sinus cancer. Ethan states that he went to check on his cholesterol levels and then seemingly read his own lab results and self-diagnosed himself based off of Google searches. He goes on to talk about a more recent test result that came in. This test is the one that Ethan runs with throughout this entire journey.
My Anna titer. This is also like leukemia and lupus and shit.
First, Anna titer makes no sense. The part that Ethan calls Anna stands for anti-nuclear antibodies. It's an acronym that Ethan pronounces Anna instead of ANA like most every medical professional does. This also adds to my claim of Ethan searching his labs and not hearing the results from an actual doctor due to the mispronunciation. According to the Mayo Clinic, in most cases, a positive ANA test indicates that your immune system has launched a misdirected attack on your own tissue. In other words, an autoimmune reaction.
According to Jake, the fact that there were elements of self-diagnosis in Ethan's approach to determining whether or not he had lupus, a disease that occurs when your immune system attacks your own tissues and organs, meant that he was spreading misinformation and harming others that suffered from chronic illness. The three main arguments that Jake made in his 40-minute long video were that 1. Ethan was misinterpreting his health data, therefore spreading misinformation. 2. Ethan was profiting off the supposed illness by collecting $1,500 in donations during the stream. And 3. That Ethan was flat out dishonest about having any illness. Many viewers felt that Jake's arguments were made in bad faith, and the like to dislike ratio on his video reflected that. However, an unhealthy dislike to like ratio was the least of Jake's problems, because when Ethan and his team soon returned from their short break, they were more than ready to address the accusations being made. At the start of the new year, Ethan shared an Instagram story that foreshadowed his reply to Jake, reading, "My face when I'm excited to return to the podcast tomorrow." Not long after, Jake left his own Instagram story begging for the backlash to stop, reading, "I will do anything to make this stop. The death threats, telling me to kill myself and saying that I was never sick in the first place is something I cannot handle. I was trying to make a video from the perspective of a sick person and it didn't connect with everyone. I was in hospital last week after posting the video. I legitimately cannot handle anymore. I apologize to everyone involved." Regardless of how much Jake wanted this to all be swept under the rug, he had already made his hit piece and was going to answer for it. Fans of the podcast were expecting a complete massacre from Ethan, and that's exactly what they got. On the 8th of January 2024, Ethan and other members of the H3 podcast went live. But before they could react to Jake's video, he set it to private.
Oh, he just privated it. Well, it's too late, bro.
Oh,
Too
is
late.
it now?
That's true.
No, it's too late.
This was likely a last-ditch attempt from Jake to be spared from the consequences of his actions. Unfortunately for him, Ethan's team had already downloaded the whole thing, and they wasted no time tearing into every second of it. Ethan started off by giving viewers some background into who Jake was, and what he's been up to behind the scenes.
The really interesting wrinkle is that this guy's been a huge fan of ours, and actually there's been a ton of interactions of him trying to reach out and get noticed and get attention from almost everybody on the crew.
He also shared screenshots of Jake's repeated attempts to connect with various members of the H3 team. According to Ethan, Jake even went as far to approach team members of the H3 podcast in person and tried to pitch his ideas. Put simply, his video on Ethan was nothing more than a petty tantrum after being rejected from working on his podcast. Ethan also pulled up a download topic of chronic illness and condemned the way Ethan went about his health inquiries. Jake went on to detail the various instances of Ethan referring to or sharing aspects of his medical reports and testing. At the same time, Jake berated Ethan for not pronouncing medical terms correctly and for using ChatGPT to further understand test results.
Saying that an elevated tryptase relates to leukemia is like saying that sneezing relates to sinus cancer. Ethan states that he went to check on his cholesterol levels and then seemingly read his own lab results and self-diagnosed himself based off of Google searches. He goes on to talk about a more recent test result that came in. This test is the one that Ethan runs with throughout this entire journey.
My Anna titer. This is also like leukemia and lupus and shit.
First, Anna titer makes no sense. The part that Ethan calls Anna stands for anti-nuclear antibodies. It's an acronym that Ethan pronounces Anna instead of ANA like most every medical professional does. This also adds to my claim of Ethan searching his labs and not hearing the results from an actual doctor due to the mispronunciation. According to the Mayo Clinic, in most cases, a positive ANA test indicates that your immune system has launched a misdirected attack on your own tissue. In other words, an autoimmune reaction.
According to Jake, the fact that there were elements of self-diagnosis in Ethan's approach to determining whether or not he had lupus, a disease that occurs when your immune system attacks your own tissues and organs, meant that he was spreading misinformation and harming others that suffered from chronic illness. The three main arguments that Jake made in his 40-minute long video were that 1. Ethan was misinterpreting his health data, therefore spreading misinformation. 2. Ethan was profiting off the supposed illness by collecting $1,500 in donations during the stream. And 3. That Ethan was flat out dishonest about having any illness. Many viewers felt that Jake's arguments were made in bad faith, and the like to dislike ratio on his video reflected that. However, an unhealthy dislike to like ratio was the least of Jake's problems, because when Ethan and his team soon returned from their short break, they were more than ready to address the accusations being made. At the start of the new year, Ethan shared an Instagram story that foreshadowed his reply to Jake, reading, "My face when I'm excited to return to the podcast tomorrow." Not long after, Jake left his own Instagram story begging for the backlash to stop, reading, "I'll do anything to make this stop. The death threats, telling me to kill myself and saying that I was never sick in the first place is something I cannot handle. I was trying to make a video from the perspective of a sick person and it didn't connect with everyone. I was in hospital last week after posting the video. I legitimately cannot handle anymore. I apologize to everyone involved." Regardless of how much Jake wanted this to all be swept under the rug, he had already made his hit piece and was going to answer for it. Fans of the podcast were expecting a complete massacre from Ethan, and that's exactly what they got. On the 8th of January 2024, Ethan and other members of the H3 podcast went live. But before they could react to Jake's video, he set it to private.
Oh, he just private it. Well, it's too late, bro.
Oh,
Too
is
late.
it now?
That's true.
No, it's too late.
This was likely a last-ditch attempt from Jake to be spared from the consequences of his actions. Unfortunately for him, Ethan's team had already downloaded the whole thing, and they wasted no time tearing into every second of it. Ethan started off by giving viewers some background into who Jake was, and what he's been up to behind the scenes.
The really interesting wrinkle is that this guy's been a huge fan of ours, and actually there's been a ton of interactions of him trying to reach out and get noticed and get attention from almost everybody on the crew.
He also shared screenshots of Jake's repeated attempts to connect with various members of the H3 team. According to Ethan, Jake even went as far to approach team members of the H3 podcast in person and tried to pitch his ideas. Put simply, his video on Ethan was nothing more than a petty tantrum after being rejected from working on his podcast. Ethan also pulled up a downloaded version of Jake's video and began debunking each one of his points one by one. From dismantling Jake's arguments of self-diagnosis to pointing out the blatant bad faith at the core of the video, Ethan was presenting his side of the story and made it clear that it wasn't some joke or cash grab, but a man desperately trying to understand his health status. To top it off, Ethan possibly donated more money to the people suffering from chronic illness than the amount Jake claimed he took from viewers. By the end of this 4-hour podcast, Jake had completely shattered the trust and credibility he had built with his audience.
This is the worst takedown video ever. I mean, dude, shame on you. And you had so many chances to not do this. The preview, AB, from us, saying, dude, this is not going to work out good for you. Trust us.
Now, this could have been the end of Jake's future on YouTube, but after facing intense criticism from all corners of the internet, he did something that saved his career from total annihilation. He apologized. On the 18th of January 2024, Jake made a 3.5-minute video titled My Recent Video, which was intended to be an apology to Ethan and everyone affected by the video he previously made.
My intention was to stand up for a specific group of people, but instead I came across as an asshole. I didn't consider how my words would affect others, and for that I'm very sorry.
Now, this wasn't a perfect apology by any means. He left out a lot of things that should have been addressed. For example, Jake didn't acknowledge his accusation that Ethan misled the audience for personal gain, nor did he explain why he took it upon himself to act as the champion of the chronic illness community. But as a commenter pointed out, it was a step in the right direction, reading, "I think apologizing is a great step in the right direction, except you left out so much. Wish you put more effort into addressing specific things you said rather than general statements. Feel like that would go a much longer way." And while it didn't undo the damage that was already done to his reputation, it's with quality content, and that's exactly what he did. He went back to his old factual self and started making videos on creators who deserved the criticism, like Sniper Wolf, Jack Doherty, and the vegan teacher. It seems like Jake took the time to reflect and learn from his past mistakes, and had finally reached a healthier mindset. He even proposed to his girlfriend in November of 2024. Things were finally looking up for his most loyal fans. That is, until the 14th of December 2024, when he threw away the little credibility he had left with a single video. At a first glance, it looked like a typical Jake Do video. It was titled, "I'm frustrated with commentary YouTubers," and had I'm Alex and Cody Ko in the thumbnail. This led everybody to believe that his video would be a deep dive into the darker side of the commentary YouTuber community, like I'm Alex mentally and physically abusing his girlfriend, which I talked about extensively in this video, or at least something along those lines. But as it turned out, the video had absolutely nothing to do with Cody Ko, I'm Alex, or any commentary YouTuber for that matter. It was 100% clickbait. Now, this on its own would be enough to enrage most viewers. However, the actual contents of this video were somehow even more infuriating, leaving even the most loyal fans completely outraged at Jake. But before we dissect this video, we need some important context. You see, Jake had been struggling with chronic illness since he was just 3 years old. The pain from this illness forced him to either use a wheelchair or crutches for the majority of his life. He even raised almost $3,000 through a GoFundMe campaign to find a cure for his illness back in 2016. However, even worse than the illness was the fact that he'd been misdiagnosed multiple times, resulting in his condition getting even worse over the years. Eventually, his own situation inspired him to start a charity in September of 2022 called Never Stop, with a fairly straightforward mission statement. Never Stop is a charity for the diagnosed, the misdiagnosed, and everything in between. Our goal is to provide financial assistance to people in long-term financial and physical crisis. It has also raised over $12,000 for people in need. So, assuming the proceeds of this charity actually reached the needy, it was 100% a good thing and no one had any issues with it. That is, until Jake, in all his wisdom, ruined the reputation of his charity with his video titled, "I'm frustrated with commentary YouTubers." As I mentioned earlier, this video wasn't actually about commentary YouTubers. Instead, it was about his charity and how no one was making any donations to it.
There has been no YouTuber who has ever inquired or donated any money to Never Stop.
Giving him the benefit of the doubt, perhaps Jake believed that he was raising awareness for his cause and charity. However, to call his execution poor would be a complete understatement. The whole thing came off as a tone-deaf attempt at guilt-tripping his audience and other YouTubers for not being charitable enough. And one viewer summed it up perfectly. Quote, "I've had people who unfollowed me and lost the opportunity to change lives. What a goober. I've never in my life seen a YouTuber guilt trip his former audience for unfollowing. Like, this is beyond pathetic." Throughout this video, Jake also came across as extremely entitled and that he somehow deserved other people's money. This became glaringly obvious when he talked about knowing YouTubers with plenty of money who, despite their wealth, weren't donating to his charity.
A lot of these YouTubers love talking about holding people accountable for their wrongdoings and all that kind of shit, but when I try to say, hey, if you have any extra money, we are giving $500 a month. I know that you just put on your close friend story that you're making 15 grand off this brand deal. Hey, I would love the help. My views are down, but you're getting, I don't know, 50,000 subs a month. What are we doing here?
And sure, even this could be dismissed as just a horribly worded plea for donations. But then, Jake stooped to something that could only be described as the lowest of the low. He tried to blackmail other YouTubers.
I'm not going to name names, but I would like you to know that I am going to name names at some point, possibly next month or so, if my following up with these people amounts to nothing and I keep getting ghosted.
In other words, Jake essentially threatened to publicly name and shame YouTubers who refused to donate to his charity. This, combined with the fact that his charity was only helping a single person at a time, made people who would have donated otherwise in the future turn their backs. The response to this was perfectly summarized by a commenter under the video, which read, "This is effing yucky. Donate to my charity or else." Like, does he understand that most people wouldn't be enticed by "we help one person per month" right now, and they don't have a long history of running and navigating the challenges that come from these organizations? And as if this wasn't bad enough, he even tried to insinuate that the YouTubers who weren't donating to his charity were dumb because they didn't know they could deduct the donation from their taxes.
Within the last 6 months, how come other nonprofits that are doing between $10 and $30 million a year in donations are willing to talk to me, but these fucking YouTubers cannot give $500 in a one-time payment out of their, I don't know, 50 grand that they're making a month? And by the way, all of this you can write off on your taxes. I don't know how many times I have to say this. These are people who are getting a shit ton of money and will not know what to do at tax time, and this is a way to offset that fucking tax bill, but I guess there's no knowledge there.
And to top it all off, he even admitted that he made this whole video because he was petty.
Because I'm petty, and because this isn't about supporting me, it's about supporting people who need the support. I'll give a bunch of examples about how YouTubers have ghosted me and not wanted to help with Never Stop.
As you might imagine, the backlash to this video was immediate and immense, resulting in Jake deleting the whole thing in less than 24 hours. And to this point, there was nothing he could do nor say to make the situation better, so he decided to make it worse instead. A day after the original video, Jake went live from his phone and said that he was going to clarify the original video and address any concerns the viewers had. In reality, most of the stream was him talking about how bad his life was and how this was his 10th knee surgery.
I'm about to schedule fucking 2 more knee surgeries. I have no. It'll be like my 10th and 11th knee surgery.
If the same thing was said by Jake from early 2023, he would have been showered with love and support from his community. Unfortunately, his own actions had destroyed any sympathy people had left for him. With one viewer writing, "It's pissing me off that you can't stop mentioning your health. We don't care. It's pretty easy to not blackmail people for money, and your health isn't an excuse." Some even speculated that he deliberately timed the charity video right before his surgery, so he could use it as a shield against the backlash he knew was going to get for that video. But despite the overwhelmingly negative response from his viewers, Jake wasn't done. He made one last attempt at saving his dying career. On the 15th of December 2024, Jake uploaded his latest response to the controversy, simply titled "Addressing Everything." But despite the almost 30-minute length of this video, it doesn't contain anything that could slow down the barrage of backlash being directed at him. And while some of his viewers are fuming with anger, like this one person who wrote, "Why did you clickbait using violence against women. You specifically used faces of commentary YouTubers known for mistreatment of women. Besides the entitlement of others' money, the assertion that the only way for rich people to do some good is to give it to you, then you clickbaited with Cody Ko, an alleged racist, and I'm Alex, an abuser. Why would you do that, Jake? The vast majority of his fans were simply done with Jake and his future content. They already gave him a second chance after the whole debacle with Ethan, and even cheered him on as he went back to making good content that people wanted to watch. However, clickbaiting his viewers, blackmailing other creators, acting entitled to their money, and refusing to take any accountability for his actions is a step too far for even his most loyal fans to justify. He is desperately trying to ignore the backlash and continue posting like nothing happened, but as it stands, I don't see a way for him to make a second comeback.
Fake apologies, bad PR strategies, and carefully manufactured redemption arcs. What if I told you the best way for a public figure to defeat controversy is to ignore it? When celebrities are facing backlash, how they respond can make or break their entire reputation. Some choose to immediately give their side of the story to hopefully quiet the outrage. Some choose to issue a sterile and professional apology that was obviously written by a PR firm. Some even choose to make apology songs. But the most surprisingly effective strategy is to say absolutely nothing and see how the public responds. Some disappear from the public, some literally keep moving on like nothing happened, and others slowly yet strategically address controversies to give themselves the most favorable outcome. Today we're going to discuss all the different ways to address controversies, starting with Mr. Beast, who put on an absolute masterclass of how to save a reputation and skate past one of the biggest controversies of his career. Mr. Beast is the undisputed king of YouTube, with close to 400 million subscribers. He has transformed from just another internet personality into the face of a massive business empire. What started as simple challenge videos has become a full-blown production company, and according to Forbes, his personal net worth now sits at an estimated $500 million. His videos regularly pull in hundreds of millions of views, built on a simple but addictive formula: outrageous challenges, massive cash prizes, and a loyal cast of recurring friends. Mr. Beast also developed a massive philanthropic leg of his brand. He created an entire organization called Beast Philanthropy, where, unlike many other celebrities, he documents his progress so people can see the actual work he was donating to. He funded surgeries for 1,000 blind people so they could see again, planted millions of trees, and even traveled to Africa to help rescue child slaves. Each video receives hundreds of millions of views, and Mr. Beast is breaking records while still making a real impact on the world. However, his perfect public perception began to change in June of 2024. That was when his longtime collaborator and close friend, Ava Chris Tyson, was accused of child grooming. Leaked messages surfaced between Ava and her 13-year-old Discord moderator, Lava GS. In these disturbing exchanges, Ava referred to the underage moderator as Daddy, made numerous inappropriate jokes, and even promoted the work of NSFW artist Shad Man, known for creating graphic art that includes depictions of CP. As internet detectives continued to investigate Ava's past, a growing pile of evidence packaged as a Reddit megathread revealed a long history of Ava's troubling behavior towards minors. Mr. Beast handled the crisis the way most corporations do. Like a true pro, he initially stayed silent to see if the controversy would blow over. However, after a massive eruption of public backlash, countless channels covering serious allegations related to the most famous YouTuber in history, he he realized he needed to take action and responded to this controversy with a sterile corporate PR statement. Over the last few days, I've become aware of serious allegations of Ava Tyson's behavior online, and I am disgusted and opposed to such unacceptable acts. During that time, I have been focused on hiring an independent third party to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure I have all the facts. That said, I've seen enough online and taken immediate action to remove Ava from the company, my channel, and any association with Mr. Beast. I do not condone or support any of the inappropriate actions. I will allow the independent investigators the necessary time to conduct a comprehensive investigation and will take any further actions based on their findings. After this statement, he strategically avoided Twitter, which is the main platform where most controversies will gain traction and be discussed amongst millions of people. He regularly posted on Instagram and uploaded videos to YouTube. Where his audience that loves him will drown out all of the negative comments. He also could control and censor negative comments on YouTube and Instagram, not saying he did, but he could have. He continued to promote his Feastables candy bar brand and even launched Lunchly in September of 2024. Lunchly could not have been launched at a worse time, or maybe it was actually the best time. He received backlash for making a knockoff Lunchables that was extremely lacking in nutritional value and could be added to the long list of borderline poisonous food that fills American supermarkets. Then again, this backlash took some of the attention away from the allegations that his day one best friend was allegedly an offender. He smiled through the chaos, and while the internet demanded answers, all they got was silence. I've been looking to find the best deal on Thunder tickets, which is why I want to give to a basketball game and know your ticket is posted by Dogpack, a self-proclaimed former employee of MrBeast's company, was released. The videos pulled back the curtain on alleged misconduct within the entire MrBeast corporation. It was revealed that there was an actual legitimate registered offender working for MrBeast. They referred to him as Delaware. MrBeast's former employee, Jake the Viking issued a statement on X saying that Delaware was his brother-in-law, is a registered offender, and alleging that MrBeast knew about the charges. Additionally, Dogpack claimed that the lotteries and challenges MrBeast hosts are also manipulated to encourage people to subscribe to his channels or purchase his products, hoping to win money or be featured in a video. He went even further, alleging that these lotteries were not only unethical, but also potentially illegal, raising serious concerns about compliance with gambling and sweepstakes laws. He went on to criticize the hypocrisy of MrBeast's philanthropic brand, highlighting that while MrBeast advocates for improving people's health, his products are simultaneously contributing to obesity and poor health. He pointed out that MrBeast runs multiple burger restaurants and sells chocolate bars to an impressionable, mostly young audience. Dogpack also noted how MrBeast allegedly tried to turn chocolate purchases into a lottery system to drive sales. His video got 15 million views and countless controversies were overwhelming the MrBeast empire. Jimmy remained quiet for 3 straight months, ignoring all outside noise and focusing entirely on promoting his brands and uploading content. When he posted a promotional image on Twitter for his video, 7 days exploring an underground city featuring other influencers like Kai Cenat and Logan Paul, the replies quickly turned hostile. Buddy is doing everything except for responding to the allegations. Jimmy, any updates on the Chris Tyson investigation? Why are you covering up for PDF files? After months of silence, MrBeast returned on November 1st, 2024 and addressed the controversy by sharing the results of the third-party investigation. Jimmy claimed that the legal firm conducting the investigation, Quinn Emanuel, had advised him to say nothing during the process. According to the investigation documents, the firm said, "We also requested that the current employees refrain from public comments to ensure the investigation yielded accurate information and that witnesses were not tainted." And of course, this company that MrBeast hired to investigate him found him not guilty. But this was a calculated strategy to keep controversy from spiraling and to prevent wild narratives from dominating the headlines. MrBeast was told to say nothing until the facts were in. MrBeast then sat down with YouTuber Oompaville for a 2-hour podcast to address all of these controversies. Another perfect strategic move. He decided to get interviewed by someone who does not normally interview people, someone who merely reacts to drama and is often lighthearted, unserious, yet trustworthy and loved by his fan base. Also, podcasts give the impression that conversations are not censored, edited, or scripted. The first question Oompaville asked was about Jimmy's silence, and this was his response.
You actually kind of laid out the timeline there. The Ava stuff came out, and I put out that tweet. We hired the investigators to go look into it. Part of that investigation is they recommended that I not talk about drama or really do anything online because it might influence witnesses or any people they might interview or ex-employees. So it's a little unfortunate because I told them, okay, I'll wait till the investigation is over. I believe that was literally like a week before the Dogpack video came out. Just in transparency, I've never done one of these like big investigations before. And in my head, it was gonna last like 2 or 3 weeks. It ended up taking a couple months.
Also, notice Jimmy's body language. Casually leaned back, feet kicked up, wearing a big cozy hoodie next to the fireplace. Everything about this gives the impression he is comfortable and not nervous. He actually sat in that same position for 2 hours, and he and Oompaville deep dove into every single controversy that was made against him. Jimmy's answers were often very unpolished, casual, and seemingly truthful.
Do you believe that you ran an illegal lottery? Was there any compliance, any steps taken to prevent this?
I don't think we did. I have people looking into it and like trying to pull the footage and figure it out. He disproved the 2, which I mean, those were crazy. I don't want to just like speculate. I have a team looking into it. I don't think we did though. But regardless, just to be truthful, if people want a refund or think for whatever reason like we did something wrong, like I'll send you a link that you can just put in the description where they can get a refund. Maybe just throw it on the screen here.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, when I was a teenager, I didn't know what a background check was. I just hired a couple people there that wanted to help me make videos. One of them was the person named Delaware. And no, I did not know he was a registered sex offender. There's a rumor that's gone around that said that he sat me and my mom down and told us. Obviously, I don't remember that happening.
And while most people appreciated the detail in which he responded, others felt the calculated PR strategy made it seem disingenuous. One commenter pointed out that he denied being interviewed by CoffeeZilla, who is a massive YouTuber known for exposing cryptocurrency scams. Although MrBeast addressed the crypto scam allegations with Oompaville, many noticed Oompa wasn't fully educated on the topic. CoffeeZilla would have been able to see through the cracks of Jimmy's response and ask the right questions to get to the truth.
When it comes to a lot of these like answers, it always just comes like every single thing that I've sort of heard so far out of all of this is just I'm just being stupid, I guess. Okay, like, oh, I made a mistake, oopsie daisy, I wasn't really thinking things through. Like, it always comes out like the actual response is always either trust me bro when it comes to the crypto stuff, because really all these things come out to just trust me bro, please just believe what I'm saying, or it comes out to, you know, clearly him going, yeah, we made a mistake, I didn't know any better, I have a team looking into it, yada. It's all just corporate PR nonsense response.
Objectively speaking, MrBeast put on a masterclass of a response to controversy. In the court of public opinion, anything you say will be used against you. Even a denial can backfire. The key here is patience. It seems overwhelming, but just don't make any sudden moves. Stay silent and keep working on whatever it is you're doing. During the silence, he kept uploading videos. He did massive collaborations with the likes of iShowSpeed, Kai Cenat, and even Cristiano Ronaldo. His content pulled tens of millions of views, his brands continued to grow. Eventually, people will forget, but he chose to respond after the noise died down to give off the impression that he has integrity and will honor his word. His casual nature of answering questions appeals to others' humanity, and because of this, he walked away mostly clean, barely harming his reputation. However, what happens when there is video evidence that almost 100% proves a public figure guilty, and the whole world knows it? What if the evidence is undeniable? Do they keep quiet when everyone is demanding answers? Well, no one tested this better than David Dobrik. David Dobrik started his creative career as a goofy teenager filming short skits on Vine, then moved to LA in the early 2010s to take content creation more seriously. When Vine shut down in 2017, he pivoted to YouTube. Within just a few years, he racked up over 10 million subscribers and became one of the platform's biggest stars. David became famous for his 4-minute and 20-second vlogs that would feature pranks, stunts, celebrity cameos, and a rotating crew of friends that his millions of fans loved. The group of friends would become known as the Vlog Squad. One of the most recognizable faces in the Vlog Squad was Jeff Wittek. Like David, he got his start on Vine before building his own audience on YouTube with a show called Like David, he got his start on Vine before building his own audience on YouTube with a show called Jeff's Barbershop, where he interviewed guests while cutting their hair. Jeff became a regular in David's vlogs, always down to get involved in the chaos, whether it was a prank or a stunt. But his loyalty to complete David's vision would have dire consequences. During the pandemic, David took a hiatus and wanted to film a massive comeback video. The premise for this vlog was to put the squad through a series of difficult or adrenaline-filled challenges. It was almost like a knockoff episode of Fear Factor. David did not want to participate in any of the challenges, but participate as the host of the show. The first challenge was to go skydiving, which went great, so the vlog squad traveled to Lake Utah to film the second stunt for the video, wakeboarding with a rope tied to an excavator, and this is where things got out of control. Corinna Kopf went first and held onto the rope while David spun the excavator in a circle, almost losing control of the machine. As she swung in the air, she said, "You take things too far, David." Then it was Jeff's turn to swing from the excavator. He grabbed onto the rope and David turned up the intensity, spinning it much faster. Once he realized he put Jeff in a dangerous situation, he abruptly stopped the machine, causing Jeff to crash violently into the side of the massive metal machine. Right after the incident, Jeff was quickly rushed to a nearby hospital and immediately underwent an operation to stop the bleeding and treat all of his critical injuries, including an attempt to save his left eye. Jeff later confirmed that his injuries were extensive. "I was in a lot of pain, I tore some ligaments in my leg, I broke my foot, I shattered my hip, I shattered my skull in 9 places, I shattered my eye socket, and I almost died." The rest of the vlog squad supported him and were with him in spirit. However, David had different plans. Allegedly, while Jeff was in the hospital under heavy medication, David began gathering evidence to show that the incident was not his idea. He started by screen recording a DM he had received from Jeff shortly before the incident. The message was a post from 50 Cent featuring a video of a man swinging from an excavator and wiping out. Jeff had written, "Let's recreate this." When David later showed this screen recording on his podcast, viewers called him out not only for ignoring Jeff's condition, but also for trying to shift the blame onto him. Anyone notice that the post in the screen recording says 2 hours ago? He literally recorded the DM an hour after the incident, immediately trying to cover up. This strongly suggests that David was already thinking about damage control while Jeff was still severely injured in the hospital. After his initial injuries, Jeff returned to YouTube and continued his barbershop series, now incorporating his injury as a joke. Every time someone asked about it, he would joke through the pain, downplay the severity, and avoid the truth, mainly to protect his friend David. On different occasions, Jeff claimed he had fallen from a building or had a skydiving accident, but never truly revealed what happened.
Crazy, we're both a little banged up.
Yeah, what happened to you?
I fell off a building.
They were all just jokes.
I was in a skydiving accident. Chute didn't open.
I was in a lot of pain, and that's how I choose to cope with my pain.
I fell down off my balcony, 12 stories high.
To add to the chaos behind the scenes, David was facing backlash for another controversy, including Vlog Squad member Dirty Dom, who was accused of R-wording a woman that was featured in one of David's 2018 vlogs. views. The video centered around Dom attempting to arrange a three-way, and the woman claimed she was so intoxicated that she could not consent. She later asked for the video to be removed, but by then, it had already amassed over 5 million views. David addressed the controversy by releasing multiple apology videos and